over speaking to students just like you. And over the last 3 days, they've been to Sunnyside, Desert View, Apollo, Sierra, Gallego, Laufer, and they saved the best for last because they're meeting with Challenger today. So we're excited, and we're really excited because all of our 7th grade students are currently watching live in their classrooms. So all 800 students are getting to hear this great message. And we want to thank you for being here. And again, remember our social contract teachers, if you guys can just as you are, just be around, remind our students how to be perfect examples of great chargers. So I would like to introduce Ms. Jacobo.
Thank you so much. I want to start off by giving a round of applause for all the administration and everyone that helped make this happen. Please help me give them a round of applause. Now, I'm going to reintroduce myself. My name is Stephanie Jacobo, and I'm very honored today to represent the United States Hispanic Leadership Institute. We are a national nonprofit organization. Like your principal mentioned, we have traveled across the nation going to different middle schools and high schools to over 42 states, talking to students like you because we believe in you. And we know you have everything it takes to be successful. But in order for you to become successful, you have to believe in yourselves. So, with that being said, I'm going to share a little bit about my story. I was born in Mexico, Guanajuato, Mexico. And at the age of 10, I found out that I was moving to the United States. I was in 4th grade, and I remember when my mom told me that we were moving, I felt like everything that I had ever known was going to be taken away from me. I came back to school the following day, and when I told my friends, Joseph and Paulina, they started crying hysterically, so I started crying with them. We became so disruptive to the classroom that our teacher ended up kicking us out of the classroom because we were disrupting the class. Moving forward, now as an adult, I realized if it was that difficult for me, I can only imagine how difficult that must have been for my parents. So for many of you, maybe it wasn't your parents, maybe it was your grandparents or your great-grandparents, but imagine what it's like to just one day decide that you're moving to a different country. A country where you do not know anyone, you don't speak the language, you don't have money. Can you imagine the courage it takes, how difficult that must be to make that decision? As a 4th grader, I didn't think of all these things. I only knew what I was going through. So when I moved to the United States and I began my first day of school, it was crazy to me. I remember vividly what happened. My principal made it a point to everyone to be nice to me, to be welcoming, because she knew that I didn't know a word of English. So everyone had to be nice, right? So I remember the bell rung for recess, so I went, I followed the crowd. I didn't know what was going on. I just kind of followed everyone. And then all of a sudden, everyone started coming up to me, saying things that I could not understand. Maybe they were being nice, I don't know, making fun of me, being funny, who knows. All I could hear was blah, 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 blah. I didn't know what was going on. I went home, cried my eyes out. My mom came up to me and she said, "What's going on?" So I told her, "Mom, I go to school, I don't understand what my peers are saying. I don't understand what my teachers are saying. It's just hard." And she said, "Stephanie, you have to realize that life is 90% what happens to you and 10% how you react to it." These words are words that moved with me the rest of my life. Until this day, when I start feeling overwhelmed, these are words that I like to live by. So I just want to leave you with this message. I know that we all have bumps on the road, right? We all have dreams too. And sometimes these dreams might seem really difficult. But no matter how unattainable your dreams might seem, there's always an end point. You just have to remember never to give up, to keep a positive attitude, and just move forward. Fast forward to 2016, I graduated from college, and I was introduced to this opportunity to participate in a pageant, in the Miss Indiana Latina pageant. Now, I didn't feel like I had what it took to become a beauty queen, but I knew that this was a great way for me to share my story in hopes of maybe become a role model for students that might be facing similar challenges that I faced. So I decided to take the opportunity. And I didn't know that not only was I going to become Miss Indiana Latina 2015, but I was going to be able to represent the Indiana state in a national pageant. So 2016, I went to Cancun and I competed with states from all over the nation for this title. And on September 30th, 2016, I was crowned Miss US Latina 2016. Yes. Now, as a fourth grader, I would have never imagined that this would happen as a result of my family moving to a different country. So remember, going back to what my mom always said, life is 90% what happens to you and 10% how you react to it. Remember that no matter how difficult things are, there's always a way out. So you have to keep your head up, maintain a good attitude, and just keep on moving forward, and you never know the opportunities that might come your way. So I'm very honored to be here with you. Thank you for being so good to us. And now I'm very proud to present to you our keynote speaker, my colleague, Adrian Calderon.
All right. Let's give Stephanie another big round of applause. Stephanie, thank you so much. Okay. So, my name is Adrian Calderon, and I too also work for USHLI. I get to travel all across this beautiful country, and I meet with students just like yourselves. Middle school students, high school students, undergraduate students. But we don't stop there. We meet with your teachers, your administrators. We meet with your parents, tus abuelos, tus abuelas, your tios, your uncles, your aunts, everyone in your life that has a role to play in your education. Because we believe in a culture of education. That's an understanding that everyone in your life could get you to that next level. Everyone in this room right now is an 8th grader, right? For the most part. You're about to transition over to high school, right? And that's a tough thing. That's a tough transition to make. But I'm a firm believer that in order for my message to get across to you all, you got to know a little bit more about me and who I am. So I want to start by introducing you all to my family. Do me a favor, raise your hand if you come from a big family. Man, we got a lot of hands, all right. Keep your hands up. I mean big family, not like como gordo, pero like there's a lot of us, right? Keep your hand up. Keep your hand up if you got 3 or more brothers or sisters at home. Keep them up if you got 4 or more. 5 or more? 6 or more. Now you guys are just playing with me. 7? 8? Okay, put your hands down, put your hands down. Check this out. I am the youngest of 10. No, man. It goes, Juana Beturuti and Adrian. That's me on the bottom. I'm the baby in my family, right? And so I say all of this because I learned a little something from everyone in my family, right? And right now I want to tell you all about my parents. My parents immigrated to this country from Michoacan, Mexico back in 1968. That's a long time ago. This coming April, my dad's actually going to celebrate his 50th year in this country. That's a huge accomplishment. Can we give my dad a big round of applause? Thank you. 50 years. But check it out. When they came here, my mother had made it only to the 6th grade. My father only to the 3rd grade. So by the time I got to your stage in life, middle school, they couldn't help me with my math homework, my science homework, my history homework, right? But they still pushed me. Me apoyaron, right? They still pushed me because they knew education was important, right? Some of you know education's important. You may not be able to explain why or how you're going to get there, but you know it's important, right? My parents knew the same thing, but they didn't necessarily have the access to information to get me to that next level. They just always said, try your best, mijo. You can do it, mijo. Do your best, mijo. That's the kind of words of encouragement that they gave me. But to be honest, when I was in middle school, I was a little mocoso, man. Do you know what I mean? Like, I was a smart aleck. I thought I had all the answers. No one could tell me otherwise, right? Let me know if this sounds familiar. Adrian, you got to think about your future. That would go in one ear and out the other. Adrian, you got to think about who you're hanging around with. In one ear, out the other. Miko, you got to focus and think about your future. In one ear and out the other. Miko, it's cold outside. Put on a sweater. In one ear, out the other. Nothing was sticking to me, man. That's just who I was, right? And growing up, what I did in school was I basically coasted. Do you know what I mean by that? What I mean by coasting? Like, I did the bare minimum just to get by. Because what happens if you do really well in school? They put a spotlight on you, right? Oh, mira, she's so smart, she's so bright, she's got a great future ahead of herself. They're all in her business. What happens if you do really bad in school? Oh, look at him. He's not focusing, he's not thinking about his future, right? They put another spotlight on you. But if you're in the middle, people leave you alone. And that's what I wanted. I wanted to be just left alone and just coast through school. So that's what I did. But, I mean, my mom knew that I could do better because my mom knows everything. You can't get anything by her, right? If you got a mom like that, you know that every time you try to hide something, she figures it out, right? You know? That's how my mom was, right? She always figured it out. She knew that I could do better, but she couldn't figure out a way to get me to that next level, right? Because, again, I coasted. I did the bare minimum. So she tries everything that she can think of. She tries yelling at me. She tries screaming at me. She tries throwing her chancla at me. Anything that she could come up with, right? To just try to make it happen. And nothing was working. Finally, she did what everyone had told her to do. She came to visit my school. She talked to my teacher. She talked to my counselor. She talked to my principal. They went page by page, all of my work. They went over everything. And they said, Señora Calderon, what you need to do is you need to sit him down and you need to have a good conversation with him. You need to be direct. You got to sit him down and talk to him. So one day I show up from school and there she is sitting at the kitchen table just waiting for me. And I go, what is going on here? So I sit down and she goes, Mijo, te tienes que enfocar. You got to focus in one ear, out the other. Mijo, you got to start trying harder. In one ear, out the other. Mijo, you got to start thinking about who you're hanging around with. In one ear, out the other. Nothing was working. Nothing was sticking. Now, here's what you got to know about my parents. My parents worked hard. When I say they worked hard, I mean they worked really hard. My dad didn't have a 9 to 5. My dad had a 9 to 9. Do you know what that means? That's a 12-hour shift. Do you know what a 12-hour shift does to a family? That meant that when he was usually off at work, that's when I was at home. When he was at home, I was usually in school. So sometimes I would go days, weeks, months without seeing my father. But I knew, even as a little mocoso, that he was doing it to better our lives, right? To put a couple of more dollars. And I'm sure you got parents in your lives that are working 12-hour shifts. My dad worked in esa fábrica. He worked in that factory for 12 hours every day, Monday through Saturday. Only had one day off. But check it out. When my dad got home, he got to kick up his feet and relax. He was the king of his castle. My mom, on the other hand, now she didn't have a 9 to 5. She didn't have a 9 to 9. My mom worked odd jobs wherever she could find them. Do you guys know what I mean by odd jobs? I meant like for 3 months in the summer, she'd work at the park district, right? Because those are extra jobs that are available. For 6 months in one semester, she worked at the elementary school and the cafeteria, helping serve food, right? Sometimes she works as a teacher's aide whenever they could afford to pay her. My mom was the neighborhood niñera. She was the neighborhood babysitter. That meant when other parents went off to work, they would drop off their kids to my house and my mom would watch them. That's how hard my mom worked. And in between each of these jobs, my mom would stop to pick up empty cans and put them in a bag for recycling, just to put a couple of more cents, not dollars, on the table. That's how hard she worked. But unlike my dad, when she came home, did she get to relax? No, she still had to cook for us. She still had to clean for us. My mom still had to discipline us, man. As an adult, I realize now that my mom probably had 1 hour of free time. 1 hour of free time. Do you know what free time is? Free time is the time that you use to binge Netflix, to watch a movie, to read a book, to play an instrument, to hang out with your friends, to go to the mall, to spend your time doing whatever you want to do. That's your free time. Think about how much free time you have today. My mom had 1 hour to do whatever she wanted. Guess what she did with that 1 hour? She slept. Yeah. She watched her favorite novelas. That's what my mom did, man. She sat on the couch and she watched her favorite novelas for 1 hour. Like, growing up, whenever I heard the voice, dos mujeres, un camino, like, I knew my mom was doing her thing, right? My mom was watching her novelas, and I could not act up, right? I could not act up at all, because if I interrupted that 1 hour, man, I was going to get it. My mom was going to give it to me, right? So my mom works all day, every day, has that 1 hour, right? Fast forward to me coasting through school, doing the bare minimum. She kept trying everything. Nothing was working. Finally, she tried something different. She goes, mijo, I'm racking my brain trying to figure this out. She goes, let's make a bet. I was like, a bet? Okay, cool, man. Because I'm thinking I'm faster than my mom. I'm stronger than my mom. She wants to race. Let's go, mom. Money in my pocket. Let's do it, right? Right? And so I was like, what's the bet? She goes, mijo, when I came to this country, I only made it to the 6th grade. I bet you I can get my GED before you finish 8th grade. And I said, okay, cool, let's do it, man. All I got to do is keep showing up to school, doing the bare minimum, right? She's the one that's got to change her whole life around and figure out how she's going to get into a classroom or whatever. I said, bet, mom, bet, let's go. Money in my pocket already. And she goes, okay, bet. So a day would go by, a week went by, a month went by. I completely forgot about this entire bet. But I started to notice a change. I started to notice something different. My mom, who works all day, every day, only has 1 hour to do whatever she wanted. I saw her sit down on that couch and turn off the TV and turn on the lamp. My mom started reading. My mom started writing. My mom started working out math problems. But check it out. Here's when it really got to me. My mom started asking me for help with her homework. She said, mijo, can you translate this for me? She said, mijo, can you help me with this math problem? Mijo, I have this paper due in a week. Can you help me write it? My mom, who works all day, every day, only has 1 hour to do whatever she wants, and she's using it to better herself. Man, the least I could do is try, right? The least I could do is try a little harder. So I did. I tried a little harder. And I'm not going to lie to you, students. Like, I didn't skyrocket to the top. I didn't become an honor roll. I didn't become the smartest kid in the school. But I started to do a little better every single day. Little by little, I started to do better. And then little by little, things started to change. I started to think about my future. I started to think about who I was hanging around with. I started to think about what I was focusing on. I started to realize what's important in my life. I started to learn new things. And I got excited, man, because that big day was coming up, man. 8th grade graduation. I know some of you all are looking forward to, man. But for me, that was going to be the greatest moment of my life, man. Because I was going to be dressed up real nice. Everyone was going to be dressed up super fancy. All the boys were going to wear way too much cologne for some reason. I don't know why, but they always do. And I remember that day. I remember walking up on that stage, shaking my teacher's hands, shaking my principal's hands, getting that diploma, and running off stage. And I was going to go find my mom. I was going to find her, and I was going to give her the biggest hug possible. And I was going to say, thank you, Mom. I love you. Te quiero mucho. All because of you. This is what changed it. Thank you so much. And I thought that was going to be one of the greatest days of my life. And it was a great day. But let me tell you about an even better day. 2 weeks later, I walk into this tiny little community center. Tiny little room with low ceiling, busted up desks, flickering lights. My mom stood in front of her friends and her peers, and she got her GED. My mom got her GED. Let's give her a big round of applause. She taught me a life lesson that day. She taught me a life lesson that no matter how busy we all think we are, no matter how much drama is going on in our lives, no matter what issues we may have with our friends or our families, we can always try a little harder. If this woman who works all day, every day, only has 1 hour of free time, I want you to think about how much free time you have to improve yourself, to make yourself better. That's a life lesson I take with me everywhere I go. Every state that I visit, I bring that information with me and I give it a little bit more. I want you all to start to think about that. I want you to remember this story and to try a little harder every single day. Because the truth is, we need you all to be leaders. We need you to take that leadership role, right? So now I told you all that I come from a big family, right? I'm the youngest of 10. But what I didn't tell you is that out of the 10 of us, I got 7 sisters. Yeah, I know, man. I never saw that bathroom. The bathroom was always busy. I have 7 sisters and 2 brothers. Each of the boys are 10 years apart from each other. That's crazy, right? 10 years apart from each other. Now, when I talk about leadership, I want to use an analogy because I love my family and I learn so much from them every single day. I want to use the analogy of the older brother and the younger brother, right? So do me a favor. Raise your hand if you're the oldest in your family. Yeah? Okay. There's a couple of you. Tell me if this sounds right, right? Sometimes you got to play the role of the parent. Sometimes you're put in charge of your little brothers or sisters, right? Like you want to hang out. Mom, I'm going to hang out with my friends. Take your little brother with you. Oh, that happens all the time, right? You take on a leadership role of being the oldest, right? Because you've been through it. You know what's going to happen. And you're so mad because they get away with everything and you get punished for everything. You know? As the older sibling. Raise your hand if you're the youngest in your family. Mira? I can always tell the youngest in the family because they're the cutest people in the room, man. Check them out. I'm just playing. The youngest people, tell me this isn't true. We get away with everything. We get whatever we want. Everyone else is jealous. We get away with everything, right? What I want to talk about right here is 2 different types of leaderships on a spectrum, all right? I want to talk about 2 different types of leadership. You can do the older sibling, like my oldest sister, her name is Juana. Juana was the boss. That was her nickname. She was the boss because whatever she said goes. She was always angry at us. She was always yelling at us because she had been through it before. She knew most of the stuff, right? So it was her way or the highway, right? She would say, it's my way or the highway. We're going to do things my way because I've been through it. I know what's going on. That's one type of leadership that I want you to think about. Having the experience, having the history, having the knowledge, and making decisions based on that. Now, I want you to focus on the youngest, right? Like me. I was brand new. I wasn't thinking about what happened before. I had all these brand new ideas. As the youngest person in my life, I was thinking outside the box, right? That's a second type of leadership, is thinking outside the box. What can we do that's different? We've been trying that for so long. Let's try new ideas. Now, do me a favor. Raise your hand if you're the middle child. Oh, pobrecitos. Middle childs are forgotten, right? Middle childs are forgotten way too often. My middle sibling, my sister, Evelyn, we would forget her all the time. Like, when we used to go grocery shopping, my parents, she used to give us each assignments. All right, you're going to be in charge of the bread. You're going to get the cereal. You're going to get the snacks. You're going to get the milk. You're going to get the orange juice, right? And we would put our hands in, all right, break. And we would just roam around the market, come back with our stuff, and then one by one, my parents would count us as we load up into that blue Astro van. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. All right, let's go. That's too many. So they would start driving, and then they would look behind, and they'd be like, where's Evelyn? We forgot her in the supermarket. So we would run over there, and we're like, oh, my God, she must be so scared. She must be crying. And then we would find Evelyn sitting down next to her hot Cheetos and Takis, just eating them up all by herself. Because Evelyn didn't care. She knew we were coming back for her, right? Evelyn was the middle child. But check this out. Everyone thought that she was quiet and that she was forgotten. But the truth is, Evelyn could hang out with the older kids, and she could talk and roll with the younger kids. She could navigate both sides of the spectrum. Both sides of the spectrum. That's the kind of leadership that I want you to focus on. I want you to focus on the history and what's come before. But I also want you to be open to new ideas. Don't be like my sister Juana. Don't be like me. Be like my sister Evelyn. That middle way. Find that spectrum. That's the type of leadership that I want you all to take in. Now, I shared a couple of stories about my parents and my families. I want to share one more story about my brother. I told you that I have 7 sisters, right? But what I mentioned briefly was that each of the boys are 10 years apart from each other, all right? 10 years apart from each other. So when I was coming up as a middle school student, my brother was already off to college. My brother Freddie, the one in the middle, the boy in the middle, he was already off to college. He was 10 years older than I was. So when I was coming up in 8th grade, like, I idolized my brother. I don't know how you feel about your older brother or older sister at home. Some of you may think that they're annoying and they pick on you all the time. But when they're 10 years apart from each other, man, I looked up to this guy. I idolized him. I wanted to be just like him. Like, no joke. I wanted to do everything that he did. If he did something crazy, I was going to try the same thing. If he did something cool, I was going to do the same thing. I joined all the same teams that he did. He used to do cross country. He used to do wrestling. So guess what I did? I did cross country and I did wrestling because I wanted to be just like him, to the point where I tried to get the same fade that he had, but mine came up a little cut up. It was not good, man. It was not good, right? But I wanted to wear the same clothes that he wore. I wanted to listen to the same music he listened to. I wanted to watch the same movies that he watched. I even wanted to date the same girls he was dating. Like, that's how cool he was, right? My brother was cool like that. Like, everything he did, I wanted to do. And check this out. One beautiful spring day, he comes home visiting from school. Man, I was looking forward to this. I was like, all right, Freddie's going to come in. We're going to hang out. It's going to be awesome. And he pulls up right in front of my house. Now, I got to tell you a little bit about my neighborhood because I don't know what your neighborhood was like or what it's like and how you grew up. But in Chicago, where I was born and raised, we called it La Cuadra, the block, right? And, like, there's always people outside of my house. There's always people just hanging out doing their thing, right? Like, from the little kids who would use chalk to play hopscotch or double dutch or whatever, to the older kids that would be in the streets playing football or soccer, running into cars, stopping traffic, to the old señoritas who are always looking out the window like, mira, ¿qué están haciendo? Always scoping you out, all in your business, right? You guys know what I'm talking about? Like, that was my neighborhood. It was a beautiful spring day. Everybody was out. And my brother pulls up right in front of my house, right in front, and he says, Adrian, let's go for a cruise. I was like, yeah, I'm going to hang out with my brother. Let's go. I'm going to make all my friends jealous. In my mind, I was already picturing it. Like, I was going to have shades, and I was like, picture me rolling. What's up, man? I was going to be like, what's up to everybody? And sure enough, we get into the car, and I see my boy. I'm like, what's up, Tony? I see you, man. What's going on, man? Nico, ¿qué pasó, Nico? What's going on? I was having a blast, man. I was making everybody jealous. I was hanging out with my big brother. It was perfect. And then out of nowhere, out of the corner of my eye, I spot 3 of the prettiest girls in the neighborhood. I don't know why girls always travel in threes. I don't know what that's about, but whatever, you know. So these 3 girls travel, and my brother notices a difference. He notices that I get nervous. And I'm like, I'm not so cool anymore, right? And I'm freaking out a little bit, right? So he doesn't even skip a beat. He opens up the glove box. He hands me a stick of gum. I pop the gum in my mouth. I throw the wrapper out the window. I'm like, let's go, Freddie. Let's go. I got my mojo back. Let's go. So we're cruising through. And then out of nowhere, he stops the car. He stops the car. Not at a stop sign. Not at an intersection. In the middle of the street. And I'm like, what are you doing, man? They're getting away. Let's go. He goes, why'd you do that? I go, why'd I do what? He goes, why'd you throw out that wrapper? The gum wrapper? That's what you're freaking out about? You can't even see it, Freddie. Let's keep going. Let's go. And he goes, get out and pick it up. Nah, man, you're not going to embarrass me in front of all my boys. Nico's over there already laughing at me. There's no way I'm getting out. He goes, get out of the car or I'm going to make you get out. It's okay. All right, fine. So you get out, right? And you try to play it off like you're mad, and it's like, oh, what's this? Pick it up. I put it in my pocket. I'm so mad. I'm so frustrated. I slam the door as I get in. I'm frustrated. I'm pulling out my hair. My messed up fade is getting worse. And like, I'm so frustrated. This man that I looked up to, the man that I wanted to be like, the man who could do no wrong, just did me wrong in front of the whole neighborhood. That's when my brother leaned over and he goes, Adrian, We live in a community that may not be the cleanest. It may not even be the safest. But it's up to you to make the most of it. It's up to you to make the most of the situation, because whether you like it or not, this community is going to shape you into the person you eventually become. It's going to shape you into the leader we all know you can be. But it's up to you to make the most of it. It's up to you to make the most of what's in front of you. See, that's heavy. Think about that. Being told that in 8th grade. I didn't fully understand what he was trying to say at that moment, right? I didn't get it that week. I didn't get it that month. It wasn't until I went away to college that I realized what he was trying to say. Students, he was telling me that we need to make the most of our resources. We need to make the most of what's in front of us. We need to take pride in where we come from. However humble they may be, we need to make the most of our situation. We can't just sit there and complain about what we don't have. We need to take action and make the most of our resources. Being here today, I know it's Wednesday. I know it's the day before Thanksgiving break. Some of you have already checked out for the whole day. But some of you are listening to the words of wisdom that we've been giving you today. Some of you are still listening to your teachers. You're making the most of your resources. Because the truth is, right now, you're in a transitional period. The next couple of years are going to change, and they're going to change quickly. I want to talk to you all about what the next 4 years are going to look like, right? It seems so far away, but it's not that far away. Check this out. Let's try a little exercise. 4 years ago, 8th graders, 4 years ago, where were you? You were in 4th grade, right? 4th grade, 3rd grade. Think about what you used to watch and listen to, right? What movies you used to watch when you were in 4th grade, right? Big Hero 6, Frozen. Like that was it, right? What did you watch? Arthur. Some of you still watch Arthur. What music did you listen to? Think about the decisions that you used to make as a 4th grader. Did you get to necessarily choose when you were going to bed? No. Did you get to choose what music was playing on the radio when you were in your parents' car? Probably not. Did you get to decide what movies you were going to watch? Probably not. Did you get to decide what you were going to wear that day? Probably not, right? But fast forward 4 years now you're making decisions. Like you get to choose whatever kind of music you want to listen to. Some of you get to decide what kind of movies you want to watch. All of you get to decide what you're going to wear today. Little by little, you're making more and more adult decisions. And that's what I want you to focus on. Today, you're making more and more adult decisions every single day. And it's only going to start adding up. Because check it out. 4 years from now, most of you are going to be able to drive. Most of you are going to be able to vote. Most of you are going to already understand where you're going to college and what you want to do in life. Those are adult decisions. And I want you to realize that as pre-teens, as young adults, you're going to start making all these decisions. And it's important that you make the most of your resources in front of you. It's important that you start making smart decisions. And a lot of that leads up to what I said from the very beginning. My mom taught me that we always can try a little harder. I want you to really take that to heart. My brother showed me that we need to make the most of our resources. We need to make the most of our situation. Right now, you all are in 8th grade. You're the kings and queens of this school. You know how everything runs. Do you know what I mean? Like, you know how to ask for seconds in the cafeteria. You know what teachers to avoid in the hallway. You know how to skip around a few things and make things a little easier. They tell you that you're the role models. The 7th and 6th graders got to look up to you. But next year, when you're in high school, you got to start all the way in the bottom. You're going to be the smallest kids. You're going to be the youngest person. You're going to be brand new in that building. And I know it sounds scary, but I'm here to tell you that it moves by quickly. But it's up to you to make the most of it. I want you to realize that there are people in this school right now that are trying to help you with that transition. There are people that are here to listen to you, to help you, to guide you to that next level. That's what I'm here to tell you all about. Now, I have a big family. Out of the 10 of us, only 5 of us made it to college. Only 5. And that's not because the other 5 couldn't do it. They weren't smart enough that they couldn't hack it. It's because for whatever reasons, there were certain obstacles in front of them that they couldn't overcome. But it didn't mean that they weren't eligible. It didn't mean that they couldn't be successful. It's for whatever reason, there were too many obstacles in front of them, and they didn't have the necessary tools to get to that next level. But I stand here in front of you all knowing very well that the only reason I succeeded was because I stand on their shoulders. I stand on what they did for me. Those of you that raised your hand that said you're the oldest in the family, you got a big responsibility. You got a big responsibility to your family because they're going to be looking to you for leadership. Those of you that raised your hand and said you're the youngest, you got to appreciate the people in your lives, the people that help you get to where you are. They're going to help you get to that next level. So out of the 5 of us that went to college, not including myself, all 4 became teachers from kindergarten all the way through 8th grade. And they married teachers themselves. And they all teach within a 25-mile radius of where we grew up. They're deep in education. That's why I believe heavily in a culture of education. That's an understanding that everyone in your life has the potential to play a role in getting you to that next level. That's what this whole presentation is about. All right? That's what this whole thing is about. Now, do you all want to hear one more story that I got to say? All right, check this out. So there was a group of us, right? There's 10 kids. We used to do these summer vacation trips. I kid you not. We used to all get into my dad's blue Astro van, and we would drive from Chicago, Illinois, all the way through Little Rock, Arkansas, all the way through Texas, cross the Laredo border, and go into central Mexico to Michoacan to visit our family, to visit my grandmother. My grandmother lived in Morelia, right? One of the bigger cities in Michoacan. And one of the things that she loved to do is she liked to take us out to see the city. So we went out to see the zoo. Now, I'm sure all of you have been to a couple of zoos, right? I've been to a couple of zoos myself, right? Every time I go to a zoo, there's always a certain animal that I want to see that never comes out. For some reason, I don't know why, but on this beautiful summer day, all the animals were out. All of them were out. I mean, everybody was out there. It was like everyone was having fun. I was having a blast. But remember, I'm the baby in my family. I'm the youngest. So my older brothers or older siblings used to make fun of me and pick on me and give me a hard time every single time. They used to try to punk me out every chance they got. Like simple things like, last one's a rotten egg, and boom, they would take off. But of course, me being the little chaparrito that I was like trying really hard to run. But you can only run so fast with small legs, right? So I was always the rotten egg. I was always the rotten egg. Everything that we did, last one's a rotten egg. Bam, I was always it. Finally, we're going through the day. I'm having a blast. I'm enjoying it. My parents say the magic words. They go, Adrian, hey guys, how would you guys like to go horseback riding? I was like, oh man, that would be awesome. I remember seeing pictures and stories from my dad. He used to own a horse when he was a kid back in the little rancho that he's from. And I was like, man, I wanted to do that. I wanted to get on top of that horse. I already saw myself. I pictured myself gliding, going through it. It was all majestic. It was going to be beautiful, right? I go, man, I can't wait for that. And they're like, all right, we'll meet you over there at the shack. And they go, last one's a rotten egg. And they pushed me, and they start running. And of course, I get up, and I try to run over there, and I'm the last one there. And everyone's pointing and laughing at me. And they're like, you're the rotten egg, right? Again, I'm mad. I'm getting frustrated. The guy's going through it. There's 10 of us. He starts counting up. 1, 2, 3. Oh, my God, son muchos. There's a lot of you. So everyone gets a horse except for me. They ran out of horses. There were no more horses left. My brothers and sisters used all of them. So I sit there. What do you do when you're a little kid? You throw a tantrum, right? I start getting upset. I start turning red. I start freaking out. Like, I used to have, like, long hair, like a mushroom kind of haircut before. So, like, I had long hair on either side, and I used to, like, pull out my hair, and I used to be really mad and upset. And I told myself, I said, you know what? Maybe if I just stay calm and I don't make a scene, they'll do the horse thing, and then they'll come back, and they'll wait for me and let me do it, right? I said, okay. So I'm going to come over here, and I'm going to sit down, and I'm just going to be quiet, because when they come back, they're going to feel bad for me, and then I'm going to get on the horse, right? So I sat there, and they're on their horses. They're laughing. They're having a great time. They're pointing at me. the guy who was working there, he sees me. He's like, oh, man, look at this poor kid. Let me see if I can do something for him, right? So he tells me, hey, come with me. And I get up and I go, well, I don't know who this guy is. What's going on here, man? So he walks me over, and then there's this giant shack. Now, it was a beautiful summer day, so the sun was like right above us. And when it's right above one of those shacks, it's almost like complete darkness. It's almost like a curtain of black. And this guy disappears into that curtain of black. And I'm like, I'm not going to follow this guy. This is weird. What's going on here? And then out of nowhere, I hear him move a bunch of stuff, and then I hear this weird noise like, "Rah." And I'm like, what is that? And then little by little, I see him pull out this rope, and he pulls out this rope, and this rope seems like it's pulling forever. And then out of nowhere, he doesn't pull out a horse, he pulls out a llama. And I'm freaking out because I'm like, I only know one thing about llamas, and that's like, if you look them in the eyes, they will spit at you, right? So I'm freaking out, and I'm just like doing this. I'm trying not to look at him, right? So when you see a new animal, what do? You try to make sure they feel comfortable. You let them smell you. You get close to them. So that I'm like, okay, I'm going to let him smell me without looking at him. So there I am trying to get him to smell me, and he's checking me out. And I'm like, okay, give me 5 more minutes of this, and I'll feel comfortable, and I'll get a little closer. But no, the guy's like, all right, you ready? He picks me up. He drops me on top of the llama. And I'm freaking out because now he's trying to look back at me, and I'm trying not to look at him, and we're both doing this, going back and forth, and I'm freaking out. I'm like, I'm not looking at him. He's going to spit at me. I'm not looking at him. I'm not looking at him. And I don't know if you guys know this, but horses you gallop with horses. With llamas, you kind of jump up and down and shake. And there I was with my mushroom haircut, so my hair was like flapping up and down. It looked like I was about to take off, And I was flapping around, and there I was, and I was freaking out. And then my brothers and sisters see all this, and they're laughing and pointing at me, and they're going nuts, and they're having a blast making fun of me. I'm turning red. I'm trying not to look at this llama. My hair is flopping. And then the guy's like, oh, I feel bad for him again. So what does he do? He smacks the llama. The llama takes off. My hair is really flying now. I'm flying through everyone. I'm passing my brother Freddie. He's laughing and pointing at me. I'm passing my sister Evelyn. She's laughing and pointing at me. Before I realize it, I realize I'm going so much more faster than all the rest of them. And I'm having a blast. Now I'm enjoying it. Now I'm having a great time. And there I am flying through everything. And I come back around, and for the first time in my life, I wasn't the rotten egg. For the first time in my life, I wasn't the rotten egg. And I learned something from that. Not right away, but I realized, I like that story because it teaches you that sometimes when all the odds are against you, if you take the moment to calm down and step back and look at your options, great things can happen. When you feel like everyone is against you and you're always in last place, sometimes it helps to take a step back and take a breath. That story has taught me, and I carry that story with me because sometimes when I feel like everything is against me, everything's going wrong, nothing is working for me, I'm always the rotten egg for life. Sometimes you need to step back and realize that you have other options, that there are people out there that are willing to help you out and get you to that next level. That's the purpose of why we're here today. I want you to enjoy this program. I'm going to leave you with this last bit of message here, okay? It's Wednesday. Tomorrow, most of you are going to have Thanksgiving dinner, right? You're going to be surrounded by a couple of people. For some of you with the big families, everyone's going to come to your house, or you're going to go to your abuelita's house, and everyone's going to be up there, right? What's the number one thing that most people at that table are going to ask you? How's school? Right? And what's going to be your answer? Your answer is going to be like, good. It's okay. Do you like school? No. What's new in school? Nothing. It's the same. Nothing's different, right? I want to challenge you all. I'm a firm believer that the more you write down what your goals and dreams are, the more likely they are to come true. Let me say that again. The more you write down what your goals and dreams are, the more likely they are to come true. That's not a magic trick. I'm not telling you to go home right now and write down, I'm going to win the lottery 1,000 times. Bam, it's going to happen. That's not what I mean. I mean, when you have to write down physically what you're into, what you want to do, you start to figure out those small little steps in between, right? Here I am standing in the middle of the room. My goal is that basketball rim over there. Can I make it in one jump from here to there? Of course not. I have to figure out the steps in between. The more you write about what your goals and dreams are, the more likely you are to achieve them. Because the more you write and share with people, the more likely you are to figure out those small little steps in between. You want to be a computer science engineer, you want to be an astronaut, you want to be a teacher, you want to be a lawyer, you got to figure out those small steps in between. And it starts with writing it down. So my challenge to you all, because today is Wednesday, I want you to go home tonight and write just one paragraph. One paragraph. I'm not asking for a page. I'm not asking for 500 words. I'm talking about one paragraph. Write down what your goals and dreams are in one paragraph. And I want you to share that with your family tomorrow. I want you, when they ask you, how's school? Well, as a matter of fact, I wrote it down. Check it out. And hand it to them. Believe me, their eyes are going to light up. They're going to be interested. They're going to want to know what your goals and dreams are. And they're going to want to help you achieve them. So all of you that have this idea of, I want to be a basketball star, I want to be a singer, I want to be a doctor, I want to be a lawyer, all these professions that you have in your mind right now, if you want that to happen, you got to start by writing it down. And I want you to share it with your family. And don't stop there. I want you to share it with your friends. I want you to share it to your community, to whatever church you go to wherever you volunteer. I want you to share it with as many people as possible, because the more you share it, the more you write it, the more likely it's going to come true. The more likely it's going to come true. So let's do a quick little recap. We started out telling you about my parents and how hard they work, how hard they struggle to make ends meet, how much effort they put into who I am today. And I know that sometimes we don't always appreciate that, but I want you to be able to step back and start reflecting, because that's what adults do. Adults tend to step back and view everything. It's difficult when you're a kid, because when you're a kid, you're right in it. I want you to start practicing being able to step back and analyzing what's going on around you and making smart decisions. My parents taught me that working hard is a great trait to have. But it also helps me appreciate the resources that I have, which brings me to my brother Freddie, who taught me that we can always try a little harder and we have to make the most of our resources. We also talked about leadership skills, right? What type of leader do we want to be? Do we want to be the older sibling, or do we want to be the younger sibling? We want to be the middle child, the one that works with both sides, that can navigate across both of those bridges. And finally, I left you with my favorite story, the llama story, about how you can step back and realize what your options are. Take into consideration everything that's available to you. And lastly, we ended with writing down your dreams and goals, making sure that they happen. The more you write down what your goals and dreams are, the more likely they are to come true. That's my message today. That's what I want you all to take from this, all right? So I want to thank you all for being such a great audience. I really appreciate it. Can we give yourselves a big round of applause? Thank you all so much. Honestly, this is the last program that we're doing here today. It's the last school. It's a lot of work to put all this stuff together, to bring all of us in here. We had speakers here from Dallas, from Houston, from Chicago, all being here to try to create what we call a culture of education. I want to take the opportunity to thank the teachers and staff. Can we give your teachers a big round of applause? Thank you all so much. I appreciate it. Very quickly, before I hand over the mic to your principal, does anyone have any questions? Any questions, any comments, any concerns, anything like that? Anybody? Well, listen, again, you guys were a great audience. I really do appreciate it. Thank you so much. I hope you learned something. Thank you so much.
Let's hear it one more time for Mr. Calderon. Thank you, Mr. Calderon, for being out here. And we'd like to say thank you to Ms. Jacobo. Thank you, Ms. Jacobo, for coming out here today. Thank you. Really appreciate it. So how'd we do? We said our word was going to be respectful. Sit down. Please have a seat. We will dismiss you in sections.